r/ask Reddit. What was the weirdest date you've ever been on? I went on a date with a girl to a bar and grill. The girl just got set free from a bad relationship. The bartender was her uncle, the server was her sister, and her fresh ex-boyfriend was there on a date with another guy. I do not miss that about small towns. Back in high school, me and the boys were getting food in the next town over, and one of my buddies thought it would be funny to order a fur burger with a side of thighs. I get to the window and the older lady didn't think that was funny at all, but that made us laugh even harder. Then very next night I go to pick up my date for the homecoming dance, and of course it's the fast food lady who answers the door. Another one. I went on a date with this girl from Tinder. She super liked me and messaged first, so I was really happy to have someone interested. I asked if she'd like to go for a walk sometime and she said she'd love to, so we get to walking and like 5 minutes in, she asks if I have roommates. I said yes. I live with 5 people and tell her about a few of them. There's Max, Matt, Mark, wait, Mark Smith? I know him. What's he been up to? So we start chatting about my roommate and she knows a lot about him. His family, the sports he plays, his girlfriend. Every time I try to move the conversation somewhere else, she brings it back to Mark. She's not even pretending to be into me anymore. She's just fangirling out over my roommate. I just love him. His hair is always so shiny and he smells so nice. She spends the full 2 hours talking about him and asking all sorts of questions. I didn't really know what to do, so I just boredly keep answering. When we get back to our cars, she shifts gears again. Hey, so I had a really great time. Want to go back to your place to have some fun? She's really creeping me out at this point, so I tell her I have homework to do and maybe later. I get back and tell Mark about the date and he knows exactly who she is. He picks up his phone and immediately calls the police. They show up at the house, find the girl outside in the backyard and arrest her for violating a restraining order or something. It turned out she was super unstable and had stalked my roommate since they went on one date almost a year prior. She recognized from photos she had of him and used me to find out where he lived. This girl from Tinder invited me over to cuddle, so I assumed that we were totally going to bang. I get there, she cooked a lovely dinner, and we just kind of held each other and talked about our traumas for a while. I told her about stuff I don't even really talk about with my closest friends. Then we moved to her bed and she fell asleep like fast, and we just sorta cuddled all night. We never even kissed, except those back of the neck ones that happen when you're spooning. I woke up, we cuddled a little more, and then I went to work. It was an awesome, super intimate experience. Pretty weird though. Dated a woman who didn't tell me she needed meds because she was psychotic. In the middle of dinner, at a restaurant, she got quiet and distracted. I asked if she was feeling okay. Apparently one of the voices told her I was a horrible person and she pulled a steak knife on me. A customer was able to talk to her and got her to put the knife down. The police were called and she was arrested. I didn't press charges, and about a week later, she sent me a letter with proof that she's been in counseling for a long time, takes medication, and included a heartfelt apology. Thank you for understanding that she needed help and for not pressing charges. That sounds like a very scary situation. I'm glad everybody is okay. I hope you have a good support system to help you get through it as well. The girl took me to a cemetery at night, walked me to a grave, explained that it was her cousin and that night was the anniversary of his death, then told me a long story about the time he raped her. I take it there was no second date. I wish that was true. I saw her a few times after that. On our last date we were drinking at a bar and some dude I'd never met before got in my face. Told me he was going to kill me for being there with her, and then smashed a chair to pieces. A bunch of people held him back as we escaped, and that was the only time I've ever driven drunk. Later she married one of my best friends. Third date with a guy from Hinge. Started off completely normal, went to a pub for a few drinks. Pub closes. Guy invites me back to his. We get back to his and have a few more drinks. He then asks if I'd like to smoke a joint. Hadn't smoked for a few years but thought hey it'll be fine. End up feeling very sick and unable to move. Guy doesn't have a bucket or bowl, so brings over the entire kitchen bin and places it next to me. He then suggests we watch a movie. Guy puts on American Psycho and I sit there for the next 2 hours paralyzed and paranoid, completely convinced he's going to murder me. Also, he lived on a boat. It's hard to say I was catfished cause the actual girl was there, but so was her boyfriend and her friend she thought I would be a better match with. What made it more odd is she had sent nudes. Full face nudes, not photoshopped face swapped. I could see the chest tat on her in person, no mistaking that. One of the weirder catfishes I've heard about. I stayed long enough to have a beer, cause I just didn't see how they expected this to work. Sad thing, her friend was not in any way unattractive. Just the setup made me think, I'm not waking up with all my kidneys tomorrow, and why go so far as nudes? I didn't ask first. Was going to go to a bar with a girl I met on Tinder. She showed up 15 minutes late, which wasn't that big of a deal. Got out of her car, crossed the street, and then awkwardly shook my hand. Told me she forgot her ID at home, apologized, and then left. Damn man, that hurt me. Dated a man who corrected my Polish, because his grandmother was Polish and she told him how to pronounce some words. Mind you, I was brought up in Poland, went to school and college there, read a zillion books, saw a zillion Polish movies, etc. But this guy was very condescending about my pronunciation of the few words he learned from his grandma. This chick suggested we go to this experimental art exhibit thing. It had a giant pool pit for adults, among other things. Pretty interesting to have two 30-somethings in a ball pit for a date. Fun time. My first dating update starts off pretty good. We barely put in our dinner order and her phone starts blowing up. Her ex was drunk and causing a scene outside her apt. Her ex kept calling. Then her roommate started and then the landlord calls threatening to call the police. We get our food to go and I take her back to her apt. Long story short, both her and her ex are crying messes. She goes inside, leaves me outside with crying drunk ex who starts telling me all about how he messed their relationship. Dude is way too drunk to drive. I end up driving him to his apt. Uber back to my car. Realize my date took all the food with her. The joys of dating. I went on a date with a girl who stood me up to the movies. I watched the movie, IT2, then went to dinner at Marie Callender's by myself. There I met people from a robotics club from my college and wanted to participate. My first meeting is this Friday. Best stood up. Help me, I'm lonely. Outing date so far. 10 out of 10 would do again. Hooked up with a girl. She was 28, with dentures and she gave me a gum job. How good was it compared to a normal one? Honestly, it didn't feel any different. If she wouldn't have told me I would have never known. I matched with a Chinese exchange student on Tinder. She asked me to meet her at her apartment. Then we'd go link up with some of her friends at the waterfront. We're texting as I'm on the way over, and she didn't realize this was a date. Nonetheless, she asks me to pick up dinner for both of us on the way over. I get to her apartment, and before I can even take my jacket off, she says, "So, do you have anything to say to me?" Presumably because I'd spent 15 seconds in silence. I offer her the food she asked for. She said she wasn't hungry. I try to strike up a conversation, but she dead ends every topic I bring up. She starts texting and making phone calls. She was speaking Mandarin, presumably, but I was able to make it the name of the place we were supposed to meet her friends. She said something about how plans might change because her friend needs help. Throughout all this, I just sat by myself, eating my sandwich in silence. When I was finished, I asked if she just wanted me to leave. She said yes, then gave me $20 for dinner. I went on a date with a guy. He invited me over to his apartment. Little did I know that it was a basement apartment, so the air was awful. It was under reconstruction, and no daylight. I felt weird, so I sent my location to few of my friends just in case if he wanted to kill me. It went well. He didn't kill me. I sucked his dong and left. The one where I asked a girl out and she said yes and then brought her friend. And halfway through the date it dawned on me that she was trying to get me to like her friend. Or had that one happen to me in college. Asked girl A to come watch a horror movie in my dorm. She ends up bringing girl B along with her. I'm like whatever, still chilling with girls watching movies. Then it's kinda obvious girl A doesn't want to do anything and wants me to talk with girl B. But her friend, girl B, was pretty cool and attractive, so I was okay with it. So then girl A says, hey, you should go to this date night party with girl B. I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm down. End of night with girl B, we start making out and I try making moves and she's like, oh no, this is so wrong, girl A likes you. And I'm like, WTF. Turns out they both liked me. And no threesome ending to this story or anything. Never got to do anything with either one. On the first date I ever had, my whole family took the liberty to invite themselves. I guess by that point it wasn't even considered a date anymore. It was to the mall and I was 15 years old at the time. I suppose it was more awkward than weird, but still. Ugh, why do families do this? I went on an awkward teen date when I was 14 or 15 with a boy who lived maybe 40 minutes away, so our parents drove us to an ice cream place halfway between our towns and instead of giving us 90 minutes to ourselves, stayed and got ice cream too and just sat at another table. I may be remembering wrong, but I think my brother was even there. No idea why. My parents usually weren't that overbearing. I did not continue to date the guy. We met at Applebee's, and she brought a friend with her, which was odd because this was a first date. Then she invited me to her place for more drinks. She lived in a single wide trailer that was in the backyard of her parents' place, which was also a single wide. She went to her room and shut the door and I was left there by myself. In the morning I left and her dad was shirtless watching me leave and yelling at some dogs that I think were trying to attack me. I went on a date with a girl who does not ever listen to music by choice, who says all food tastes the same, kept emphasizing that she eats to live and not lives to eat, has never finished any book or TV series in her life, and was about the coldest, not angry, just cold, human being I've ever met. Conversation was as awkward as you can imagine. I'm no psychologist, but I'm pretty sure she was my first, and hopefully last, schizoid personality disorder date. I went on a date with a guy who was supposed to pick me up after work. He showed up before my shift started, stayed all day. He stole stuff from my work, or tried to. I wasn't aware of this until co-workers told me the next day. He brought me to the Waffle House and blew his nose at the table repeatedly. He went to the bathroom a bunch as well. His car broke down when it was time to leave and our waitress, who he tipped in change, had to give him a jump. He also told me about his hobby of LARPing, which is live action role playing or dressing up like weird stuff for those who don't know, and told me that the books I read were for stupid people. He asked me out for 5 years after this, and I blocked him on all media. I finally changed my email address and got rid of him. First ever date. We watched Ted 2. Halfway in he shows me a picture of a dog sticking his tongue out with the text "kiss" above it, and when I turned to him he gave me a peck on the lips and went on as if nothing happened. We dated for about 6 months after that, but damn. When I was 15, a girl asked me to the movies. It was I Love You, Man. Her parents decided to attend too. Then one of the characters cursed like 10 minutes into the movie and the parents told us we were leaving. They took me right home and that was that. The guy played Dance Revolution for a good 45 minutes while I just stood there. I left and played a couple arcade games by myself. Then came back and he was still playing. On the car ride home, he asked how many children I wanted and started suggesting names for our kids. Then tried to make out with me when I got home. Nope, good BE. Wasn't officially a date, sadly, but I went out to eat to a place by our houses with a girl I liked. We were sitting next to a wooden half-wall type thing and roaches started to crawl up it. She was apparently afraid of bugs because she started whimpering and scooting away. For some reason I figured it would be a good idea to smack them with my bare hands to get rid of them and did so to one, only to find out that the half-wall was flimsy and temporary, causing the front and backside to smack and rattle against each other and drawing attention. The waiter noticed this and had us stand up. He removed the booth tops to reveal a whole horde of those insects and he smacked each one individually with a newspaper. We stood there awkwardly and watched as he did this before he replaced the seats and had us sit down again. I actually didn't find it that odd at the time, but did once I looked back at it. The restaurant did close down shortly after that. I was talking to dude on Tinder and decided to meet up with him for coffee one day. He only talked in impersonations of WWE wrestlers and then asked me to go to WrestleMania with him and his entire family later that night. Had to cover for a friend's teaching when I had a date planned, but instead of rain checking, she decided to come to the class with me and pretended to be a graduate student so to walk around and give kids bad advice. She has wit 10 out of 10. Going out again tomorrow. A batchmate of mine won't stop asking me out. I successfully evaded him for about 4 years. He was a good guy but couldn't understand boundaries, or so I thought. Anyway, I just thought I should get it out of the way for once and all. So I told him that we can get dinner. He wanted to pick me up from my house. I didn't want to give him any idea, so told him that we will meet near the restaurant. We needed to park a bit further from the restaurant. While we are walking towards the restaurant, we passed a bridal store. There were a bunch of bridal gowns in the window. He looked at the gowns and told me that I would look so beautiful in the gown on our wedding day. We reached the restaurant. It was very awkward. He started asking me how many kids I wanted and where would I prefer to live after marriage and stuff. Mind you, this was the first time we met in person after 4 years. While this awkward conversation was going on, he got a call from his dad asking how his date was going. We both are 25. Then after some time, his sister called and asked the same thing. He wouldn't even go away from the table to talk to them. Apparently, he thought that the date was going great. I had made it clear that it wasn't a date and that I would pay for myself. So when the server brought the receipt, he wouldn't take out his wallet. I pay for both. After the server went, he told me that he would give me a check for the amount he owed me. I said not to worry about it. I thought, this is it. I can't go back home now. But no, he had to walk me all the way towards my car. There, he tried to hug me and plant a kiss, which I had to get away from. Just as I reach home, I get a text from him. It's a picture that I posted on my Instagram 2 years ago. The text along with it said, "This is the best picture you have till date." I knew I liked you way before. Whatever that meant, I couldn't even come up with a reply for that. To separate people, she informed me that when growing up, she and her father would drive the old back roads looking for stray cats to run over. She told me this as she started having anxiety hives. She informed me that she accidentally killed her childhood cat by baking it alive with a space heater. She thought the cat was cold. Yo, I don't know why I found these people, but it worried me. On the bright side, I am currently in an awesome non-cat killing relationship, so that's cool. The weirdest was when I was a college junior and dated a girl that was a classmate. She wanted to have a picnic in a cemetery at a gravesite where her ex was buried. He had been killed in a crash 2 years previously. I told her that I'd accompany her to visit his grave, but that picnicking and having a good time there somehow didn't seem appropriate. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.